All right, we've got some breaking news out of the Middle East. The Israelis are reporting that Iranian forces in Syria have fired nearly 24 rockets into Israel. You better believe the Israeli military is going to retaliate. We'll bring you any updates as soon as we get them. And of course, this is all linked to President Trump keeping his campaign promise to pull out of the Iranian nuclear deal. And although our European allies expressed concern, former Vice President Dick Cheney says the president did right by our Middle Eastern allies. Here he is with our very own Maria Bartiromo. Once again, a big interview.
One of the reasons I disagreed with the original deal with the Iranians was that it looked to me like what the Obama administration was doing was sort of shifting their emphasis in the Middle East from our traditional allies, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, to the Iranians. And the Iranians ended up sort of the big dog on the block, primarily because that appeared to be what President Obama wanted to have happen.
Because of Valerie Jarrett's siren song. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has ordered his foreign minister to begin negotiating with other countries to salvage the deal. And he also warned that if the talks fail, Iran will go back to enriching uranium in the next few weeks. See, told you we couldn't trust him. Pretty quick turnaround for a program that was supposedly completely shut down. Right, John Kerry, but how can the president go about keeping it shut down? Let me bring in my highly enriched party panel. She's a reporter at The Federalist. Her name is Payton, along with Reason.com associate editor Robby Soave is here, and she's the correspondent for the Greg Gutfeld Show, the one and only Kat Timpf. Welcome, everyone.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Hey.
Hey. Hey, girl. So let's dig into Iran a little bit. People are worried that there's no plan B for this deal, and it's going to make the Middle East less safe. You say this is better than anything that President Obama put forward in his deal, and pulling out is acceptable. Why?
Yes. Well, now we don't have to live and pretend like we are living in an alternate reality. We get to talk about things as they are, right? And as they are, there has been a secret, location where they have been testing nuclear sites. This has been an ongoing program, as you said. It's not like they got rid of everything. This is something that they've been keeping on the back shelf. So I think just being able to talk about things as they are is certainly helpful. And I think it paves the way to enable the Iranian people to be able to choose for themselves who their leaders will be. Do they want to continue with the status quo? Do they want something different? I think this opens the door for them to get to choose.
Well, it's like a couple that breaks up and the woman goes, oh yeah, you're going to break up with me? Fine, I'm going to be 4 months pregnant next week. It's a little bit suspicious, but you think there might be ramifications with North Korea here. Why?
Well, yeah, I mean, when the U.S., gives its word to a country that, okay, this is what we're going to do, and then immediately goes back on it when there's a new regime in power in our own country, I think that undermines our negotiating ability. I think that might send the wrong message to people like Kim Jong-un, who are saying, well, maybe I'd like to join the world stage and get along and do diplomacy. Oh, but they're going to do whatever they want, and they're going to go back to overthrowing this dictator and that dictator and doing nation building and doing hawkishness. So I can't trust you.
But if a deal can be pulled out of that easily, maybe that's part of the flaw
certainly.
in the
Well,
deal.
this is the flaw of President Obama's approach, to do everything unilaterally, everything by executive action, not work with Congress.
Sidestep
that was
the Senate,
and it's easily undone if you do it that way.
And that's what's problematic about U.S. foreign policy. It's not U.S. foreign policy. It's the foreign policy whim of whoever is in power. And, there may be issues with North Korea, but it also may be Kim Jong-un knows what he's dealing with because the president talked in very certain terms about how he was going to deal with North Korea on the campaign trail. Same with the Iran deal. I mean, it's not a surprise, and people shouldn't act shocked by it. But what is the best way to convince the president moving forward how to put together an even better deal?
I don't know, because he didn't seem too concerned with that. He just wanted to get out before having a plan B. And I am someone who's a little nervous about that. And I do agree with Robby that it could make things more difficult when we're negotiating with North Korea. Yeah. Something that also confuses me about it is that one of the things that President Trump said he didn't like about this deal is that it expired. And that was a huge issue for him. So what he did was just expire it earlier. That doesn't make any sense to me, especially since there's nothing new in place.
Then, one argument is, let's fix the deal, let's remodel it, and shore up some of the issues that we have, including the sunset provision. And it's basically, it would be like with North Korea if we said to them, all right, we're going to craft a new deal, and part of it is you have to close your labor camps for 15 years, but then you can open them up again. That's the exact same
It just
thing.
kind of seems like Trump was doing a good job with the North Korea of charting a new foreign policy, something different from the old kind of neoconservative Republican establishment, and just, you know, pulling out of the Iran deal, even though he said he was going to do it, seems to go back to that sort of hawkishness
do you think
I thought
John
we were getting
Bolton
away from.
had any
Yes.
hand
I
there?
think he had a huge influence, and I think that he was telling him what he wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So all these people who were telling him what he didn't want to hear didn't really make much of a difference.
All right, so Bolton's hand in our foreign policy now, it has been, you know, really theoretical since he's no longer been a UN ambassador, but now he is the national security advisor, and he's got a very different role and the president's ear. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. I think it's obvious that they work together and have similar priorities. And this is something, you know, pulling out of the Iran deal is something that Donald Trump has been talking about and promising for years now.
And John Bolton.
So
And John Bolton may have given him a blueprint of how to do this and why it's so important.
Yeah.
And, you know, made a very strong case.
Yeah, and I think also the addition of Giuliani and kind of the purging of some other people who didn't have the same priorities and thought process that
Like
he
Tillerson.
did. And bringing on some other people that seem to be more simpatico. I think it makes sense. And, you know, I think we're going to see the White House act in a more efficient manner. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. Like, we're seeing efficiency in terms of North Korea. We're seeing the Iran deal expiring.
Okay, but you know what's interesting about this is the president, as far as foreign policy, has kind of been all over the map. He's been very hard to pin down his ideology when it comes to foreign policy. And now it's looking like a much more traditional conservative Republican foreign policy.
Except for North Korea. But I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to do that, but it's just that sort of his ideology is deals, right? He makes better deals than the other people, so he has to try because that's like actually his thing more than policy.
Work. I don't have faith in everything he does. I think a lot of stuff he does, especially when he's talking about the press, I think it's bat poop crazy. But when it comes to North Korea, I see how that could actually work and pan out. I hope the same is true for North Korea. And I hope it happens without a shot fired or a civilian killed.
And get out of Afghanistan and not overthrow Assad would all be good things.
All the things he talked about in the campaign trail, I would love to see him make those kinds of deals and focus more on diplomacy than military action. And I'm not rooting against him. I'm rooting for him to do all of those things.
I'm rooting for the world.
Me too.
All right, coming up, more on Maria Bartiromo's interview with former VP Dick Cheney and his thoughts on torture. And you don't want to miss Maria's interviews with Cheney and former CIA Director Leon Panetta, both making a lot of news. You can see every minute of those interviews, 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. Eastern, right here, only on FBN. The panel is returning a little bit later. First up, Stormy Daniels' lawyer accused Michael Cohen of selling access to the president. But does his evidence hold hot water? And what about those other bombshells Stormy's legal team is promising? And how is she paying them? And Emily Campagno is here to crack the case. She's next. While President Trump is making big moves on the international stage, Hillary Clinton is still on her post-election failure book tour. Here's what she said in New Zealand earlier this week when asked about her 2016 loss again.
It would be inaccurate to say that I wasn't devastated, because I was devastated, because I didn't expect it. I wasn't ready for it. And it still is an ongoing process. Our country has not yet resolved it. People say, why haven't you moved on? I say, well, there are tens of millions of people who haven't moved on because there's still so many unanswered questions.
No, so many unanswered questions. The prime question that has not been answered is what happened? Hillary isn't over the election? Oh my gosh, we hadn't noticed. She also said it was a perfect storm of reasons that she lost, but she'll be very active in the 2018 midterms. But it's been a year and a half. So why are Hillary Clinton and her lemmings still screaming, not my president? The party panel is back. Payton, Robby, Soave, and Kat Timpf. Some people get mad that I keep talking about Hillary, but I really love talking about her. And I love that all anyone has to do is poke the she-bear, and she is just a wealth of dumb excuses that never amount to her taking responsibility.
She's the gift that keeps on giving, 1,000%. I do think that she's kind of right here, though. There are a lot of people that still aren't over it. There are all those people still screaming, not my president. But the difference between them and her is I think that those people, even though they might not be over it, they every now and then will talk about something else.
Yeah.
Every time she's talking, it's always Donald Trump is bad. Donald Trump is bad. I lost because of this or this or this.
Misogyny in Russia and Russian misogyny.
It's like she's a robot and there's a switch inside of her that's just stuck on 2016 campaign mode. That would explain everything.
But the weird thing is, she said that she wasn't prepared for it. If you're going to run for political office, there's a really great chance you're going to lose.
Well, this is emblematic of the whole problem. She had really surrounded herself with people who were utterly convinced she was going to win, who convinced her that she was going to win, who thought there's no way anyone in the country, anyone else in the country could possibly disagree with them, that Hillary was light itself, as Lena Dunham described her as. I mean, the strategy of hiring, like, young, coastal, millennial, inner-city, hip, newcomer political strategists.
Intersectionalized.
Very right. Well, the intersectional strategy failed miraculously, but they were convinced she would win, and they convinced her of that.
Yeah.
So I feel, well, but she picked those people, so you can't feel too bad.
No,
right?
I mean,
She surrounded herself.
You have to take responsibility. And I know it's very difficult to look in the mirror and say, people don't like me. But it hurts, trust me. Do it every day. But at some point, she's got to do that. And she's got to be honest about it, because otherwise it's a very disingenuous journey that she throws us on her back like she's a Sherpa. She was named after Sir Edmund Hillary, even though he summited Everest 5 years after she was born. What?
You know what? I guess what's most frustrating in all of this is that she gets lauded as like this feminist icon.
Yeah.
Right? Meanwhile, okay, she loses, she tries to run for president twice. Voters tell her no. Like, we do not want you around.
Even the lady
She can't
voters.
handle it. Yeah. She can't handle it. She's full of making all of these excuses. And I think that's honestly a bad example to set for women and girls, right? Like, if you are having, if you fail to succeed in something, instead of learning from those mistakes, instead of trying again, your response is going to be
or doing a different thing.
Exactly. I mean, that's what the definition of insanity is.
She sounds
right?
no different now than she did on the campaign trail, except with the addition of excuses for why she lost.
I love the no excuses. It's the best. It's the greatest hits. All right, thank you so much, Kat.
Thank
Robby, and
you.
Bree. Great to see you guys. Coming up, you need a job? Good news, because it turns out there's a lot of work out there for anyone who's looking. So what's the catch? Brian Brenberg is here to explain why your good job ain't paying so great. Brianomics is next.